everybody. I'm going to be sharing some facts about Denver that you guys might not know about. I grew up there, so when I tell people I grew up in Denver, people will ask me, okay, where do you go, what's the place, or where do you stay away from? So that's some of the things I'm going to share with you, and I'm also going to share some of my experiences with Native communities. Okay. So the first thing up is restaurants. The thing that came to mind when I did this was like places that you're only going to get in Denver. A lot of it's Mexican food. The first one is Rosie's Las Cazulas. I actually got to know the owners. The grandmother started the restaurant back in probably the 70s. And then over time, her granddaughter Rosie took over on it and still has the restaurant. And it's one of those places that if you drove by it, you'd probably think, oh, okay, this is not somewhere where I want to go. But then when you go in there, it's a totally different experience. Then the next one is Chubby's. That's like a popular one that, you know, when people ask, you know, like, where do you go? You know, what's a good place that has good food? And then that's one of the popular ones that people mention. Another one is Las Delicias. And then that's another one that's a chain in Denver, so there's a few restaurants that you can only go to. And the one kind of cool thing about that one is they have like a lot of Southwest native decor. So like the chandeliers and all that stuff in the restaurant or pottery have that Southwest look to it. So, you know, one thing that we kind of forget about is like a lot of the Mexican culture is related to the Native culture, like Native Americans, Southwest tribes like the Navajos and down Southwest, they're related in some way, so like especially with the food. And then the next one is Casa Bonita, and that one is a tough place. It's kind of a funny one. That's why I put that meme up that, you know, if you've survived their food, because there's so many people that see this place and it's, you know, definitely one of those things that you just have to try out once, but the food is horrible. And you go in and they have like an arcade, they have stage divers, all of these crazy things going on, and it's just kind of fun to go check out the atmosphere. And then one of the hidden gems is Columbine Steakhouse, and that one's on the bottom corner there. That one's in a tough neighborhood. It's just kind of funny because it's another one that you would think you'd be in the area and you'd be like, okay, I want to hurry up and get out of here because I'm probably going to get robbed or something. But you go in there and it's almost like a fast food place. You go in, you order your steak, go find a place to sit down, and then they'll call you up when it's ready, and it's really good. You know, it's kind of, you think of like Texas Roadhouse or something like that, and that's, you know, way better than that. So the next one that I have is Tocabe, which is the only American Indian-owned restaurant in Denver. And the owners are Matt Chandra and Ben Jacobs. And in the picture there, that's the picture with the owner, one of the owners. His name is Ben Jacobs, and then my daughter, Summer. They do a lot of things within the community. You know, they set up at powwows, they have the food truck, like they'll cater different events. And then one thing with their business is that they support the local American Indian community, local farmers, and they're helping represent the American Indian culture in the 21st century. And with this, their history with Ben, his mom actually had started a restaurant back in the 80s. And in downtown Denver, there's a place called 16th Street Mall. And that's a busy area where everybody goes, like everybody downtown, they'll have their lunch. And so like in between like 11 o'clock to 2, it's like a busy area. And they had a food court, and where Ben's mom had opened a restaurant called Gray Horse Eatery. So that was like one of the first native food in that time. So from then it grew into this. So Ben took his mom's idea and grew it into what it is now. So the next one, we talked about what to do. And we just thought of things, I was asking my kids, like, okay, what can I put in here? So we just thought of different things that were different, that weren't the usual, just going to the mall or going to the movies. So one thing that we like to do whenever we go during December is going to the Denver Zoo. They have the zoo lights. And when you walk through the zoo, the whole thing is lit up and decorated with all the Christmas lights. And then the next thing is the Parade of Lights, and that always falls on the first weekend in December, so it's a Friday and Saturday, whatever that weekend is. And downtown Denver, and it's almost like you think of the Macy's Parade or something to that caliber. They have the big balloons, all these things that you just see on TV. And when you see it in real life, it's really amazing to see like how much work and effort they put into all the floats. Everything is like all these different companies. They have even like local communities. They had like the Denver Indian Center, so it's not just like the bigger companies, it's also the smaller communities of Denver as well that take part. So the Denver Indian community, the first thing would be the American Indian Urban Relocation Act of 1973. That is when the government, they wanted to try to assimilate American Indians into mainstream culture. And the BIA began a voluntary urban relocation program. So they worked with the cities of Chicago, Denver, LA, Cleveland, and Seattle. And I think there were some other towns in California as well. But they had, talked to different students, like, or youth in different areas, and offered them money, offered them, stipends. And if you move to Denver, then, we'll pay for your housing, we'll find work for you, or job training. So that's how a lot of Native people moved to Denver. And then the next thing is the Denver March Powwow. That is one of the biggest events that they have in Denver. And finding pictures for this event is another kind of funny moment. Is, my kids are like, yeah, put that in there, that's so cool. I used to hold the title way back probably in 1999. So that was a long time ago, just not bring up my age, but yeah. So then this past year, they honored the past princesses. So that picture on the far left, that one is from last year, and then the program flyer from the year when I was the royalty. And so that's one of the biggest events that has over 15,000 dancers from 100 different tribes. And that was a small committee that started back in 1984. And it used to be, they have an Indian center, and they would have small powwows, and then this, the group started that way. They started as a small powwow, and then eventually it grew into what it is now. And so that's one of the big events. So a lot of people, like even within the city, like non-native people will like ask, when is the powwow? We want to come out, we want to shop, we want to, come and watch everybody dance. And the one good thing about it is, because I will tell people, that's a good time to come out, because, you want to see like the real natives, not, like the Boy Scouts or something, that you see on TV or anything like that, but you get to experience like the real powwow. And this one is a flyer of of what they had for the Relocation Act. So we just threw that one in there. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Denver Nuggets. So a lot of the things that came to mind with all the stuff that I put on here is based off of just like from the Native community. When I lived there, I was involved with a lot of things. So the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Mammoth, I think the soccer team as well, can't remember what their name is, but they also have a Native American night. And this was a new thing that just kind of came about. My family's been able to take part in it. My dad and my brother are in the middle picture there singing for the Colorado Mammoth, which is the national lacrosse team. And then the next Native American night for the Denver Nuggets is coming up here on November 4th. The guy in the middle there, his name is Sean Martinez, and he's with the Denver Nuggets mascot, Rocky. Sean Martinez is the founder of the Native American Heritage Night. I've known him for probably about 25 years. When I grew up in Denver, I got to know him. He used to be a DJ at clubs. I used to go out to clubs, and that's how I got to know him. And then, that was probably about when he was in high school, and he's Navajo from Window Rock. And, when you're in a big city and, you find another Native, you get to know each other. And so he'd invite me to different events, and then, I just got to know him. And then after time, he got to know my family. He got to, just kind of know the community, and then that's where he got his foot in the door, and he started working as the entertainment part of the Pepsi Center. And with that, that's how he developed the Native American Heritage Night. And so he brought dancers in, and then it grew into where it's at, and he's actually working for the Phoenix Suns right now. So he started in Denver, and then he moved on to the Pistons, and then to Detroit, and then now he's working with the Phoenix Suns. So if you see like the Native American Night with Phoenix, Sean is actually the one that started it in Denver. So, and that was, probably about 20 years before, when we seen the Native American stuff this last season. So the one thing about Denver, I forgot, let's see, it's okay. So with Denver, it has a lot of history behind it. There's a lot of people, even myself, there's things that I've learned a lot about. My children, their dad is Northern Arapaho, so they're half Arapaho, and there's a lot of things that I learned from him, from the time that he was around, that just the history of Colorado. He would always say, this is our homelands, this is where our Arapaho people are from, and then kind of getting more involved, and that's where I learned about things. Just recently, as of September 15th, so just a couple of weeks ago, Mount Blue Sky was, Mount Evans is renamed to Mount Blue Sky. And the reason why they wanted to change that is because they wanted to honor the Native people, the Arapaho and Cheyenne people, because John Evans was the governor at the time, and when they named Mount Evans, he wasn't a good person. He was the one who, after Sand Creek, celebrated what had happened and had brought the cavalry into Denver and paraded into town. So he was somebody that the Native people, just had a lot of hard feelings for. And so, they did bring that up, and they brought up the real history of, that person, saying that mountain shouldn't be named after him, after, what he was standing for. And it took a lot of work, but they did end up changing it. So that's one of the new things. With the Denver International Airport, it was opened in 1995, and that's out in East Denver. And where that's at, there's like nothing out there. Well, when it was first built, there was absolutely nothing. It was totally plains. And they would say, that was homeland or camp area for Cheyenne and Arapahoes back before reservation time. And when they designed the building, they had teepees in mind. And I'd always hear people talk about that, and I was like, no, that can't be true. I was like, they're just kind of making up, having a good story. So I looked it up, and I was like, well, what do you know? They really are, representing teepees, and it's in honor of the Native people of Colorado. And, so there's a lot of things that you don't think about or that you don't know that, are little neat facts that, makes you proud of, like, wow, that's a cool airport that they're honoring those people. And then one thing about I remember from I was trying to find the article, but the area where it's at, you know, there was a lot of history there. And people would say it was haunted. And so I remember probably about 2002, 2003, they actually had some elders from the community go out and smudge the building because, you know, they were getting bothered that much. So the one thing about me is that, so I was born and raised in Denver. And that's why I picked Denver, because I was like, well, you know, what can I talk about? What do I know? I graduated from George Washington High School. That's the picture on the bottom. And one thing about my high school was that, you know, there was probably like just a small handful of other Native students. You know, one kind of cool thing is that Chauncey Billups, you know, he was a senior when I was a freshman. So that was kind of cool. So I was always like, yeah, you know, cheering for him wherever he went because, you know, I was like, he played at my high school. And then how I got to know all of these things, you know, like the events or things that were going on in the Native community and different things like that is because I used to work as an administrative assistant for the Colorado Commission of Indian Affairs. And I did that for 1 year. I started actually at the Denver Indian Center, and they had a job placement program where they would train you and then they help you find a job. So then they had that opening up and they were like, hey, do you want to try this out? And so I was like, well, I've never had, you know, a position like that. So, you know, it was just the office person doing the filing, answering phones, front desk type of thing. But, you know, I did get to go along on all the different meetings and wherever there was events that, Native events that were happening that the office was a part of, then I was able to tag along. So just learning a lot of things like that. Then I threw that meme on there about judgmental Denver. When you grow up there, there's a lot of different areas in town that, you know, people ask, well, where are you from? You know, are you from Aurora? Are you from Lakewood? And so they have all these little areas of, you know, what part of town you are. And, you know, one thing that we joke about is, so like where it says Stinky Town, that's Commerce City, and it's like industrial area. So it has a really strong smell of sulfur when you drive through it. And so even when we're driving through, and then my kids or whatever, we're like, hey, you know, what did you guys do? You know, and just blaming each other on who farted or that kind of stuff. And, you know, or we'll tell them, you know, or we'll say, hey, you guys smell like Commerce City. But, you know, that's kind of one of those things about, you know, if you're from Denver, you'll kind of know one of those little inside jokes. But that's all I got, so I hope you enjoy what I shared with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.